Thanks for tuning in to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate and the Advocate at Large, our journalistic organization here in the Acadiana area. They provide you with the news coverage, and we are glad every Monday through Friday to provide you with a read of their printed news stories. We could not do this without the generous efforts and volunteer efforts of our volunteer newsreaders, who I think we might be joined by a volunteer this morning. They might be a little late getting on the call. But in the meantime, I can just go ahead and take it away with the news read for this morning. So here we go. Our first story is Hurricane Delta. Here we go again. Delta could make landfall in St. Mary Parish as Category 2 late Friday by Sam Carlin and Mark Schlefstein, staff writers for The Advocate. Hurricane Delta poses a wind storm surge and rain threat to the entire Louisiana coast in advance of a possible landfall in St. Mary Parish at Category 2 strength near Franklin late Friday or early Saturday, according to the National Hurricane Center. Delta reached Category 4 strength with top winds of 145 miles per hour on Tuesday afternoon as it approached Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, and it is expected to remain a major hurricane as it crosses the center of the Gulf of Mexico over the next 3 days. Forecasters with the Slidell office of National Weather Service said the biggest threats for the state remained. Potentially life-threatening storm surge, mostly along the coast outside of hurricane levee systems, with many locations possibly seeing surge levels of more than 10 feet above ground level. Widespread damaging winds that are likely to result in electrical outages. Heavy rainfall and the potential for both flash flooding and river flooding, largely to the east of where the center of the storm makes landfall, with rainfall generally totaling 6 inches Friday through Sunday, and locally higher amounts. Governor John Bell Edwards and several parish presidents declared states of emergency on Tuesday afternoon in anticipation of Delta's destructive powers, but Edwards said that as of Tuesday afternoon, he did not anticipate issuing mandatory evacuations for New Orleans or other major population centers protected by levees. Lower-lying areas outside of the protection of levees would likely see such orders, though. Hurricane Delta approaches as the state is still recovering from Hurricane Laura, and Edwards said Louisiana was still sheltering more than 6,600 people in 12 hotels, mostly in New Orleans, after consolidating the numbers of hotels used for evacuees. But repairs to transmission lines and the movement of mobile housing into southwest Louisiana will likely have to be halted sometime this week in advance of the storm making landfall, the governor added. Plus, COVID-19 testing in Baton Rouge and New Orleans will likely have to be halted again Friday and Saturday. Such testing was also halted amid Hurricane Laura, which complicated the state's tracking of the spread of the virus. This season has been relentless, Edwards said. Since early March, it just seems like one thing after another. But the fact of the matter is, we don't get to choose. This is the hand we have to play. Edwards said southwest Louisiana is in no shape to withstand a storm because of the lingering effects of Hurricane Laura, which smashed into Cameron Parish as a Category 4 storm. About 98% of Calcasieu Parish, home to Lake Charles, had power restored, but work continues to get redundant sources of electricity back online, which is important for industrial businesses such as refineries. Edwards' state of emergency declaration gives the state the ability to procure resources through emergency contracts instead of through the normal bid process. Mike Steele, a spokesperson for the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, said parishes and the state must have emergencies declared for the state to get pumps, fuel, and other resources for local officials. State officials have been working with local authorities to deliver pumps to low-lying coastal areas and help prepare for the expected storm surge from Delta this week. Edwards also said he planned on requesting a national emergency declaration from the Federal Emergency Management Agency on Wednesday, which would require approval by President Donald Trump. The timing, strength, and even the shape of Delta, as it comes ashore, was still in question Tuesday evening, in part because that landfall occurs between the center's 24-hour forecast points for storms 3 or more days away from landfall. The 4 p.m. forecast path shifted about 30 miles to the west, which might reduce the effects of surge and rain in the easternmost parts of the state. But increases in the risk of hurricane-force winds at inland points, including Baton Rouge, and continued shifts to the west could increase the danger to portions of southwest Louisiana recovering from Hurricane Laura. The storm is forecast to be a Category 3 strength, with top winds of 125 miles per hour at 2 p.m. Friday, when it is expected to still be well off the Louisiana coast. From that point until landfall, Delta is expected to run into increasing southwesterly wind shear and cooler water along the continental shelf, both of which should reduce its intensity, said the senior hurricane specialist Daniel Brown. But the forecast models relied on by the center also expect that even as Delta's wind speeds slow, the size of the wind field will expand significantly while still over the Gulf waters, increasing the area threatened by both storm surge and the winds, Brown said. The worst surge and winds are expected to occur to the east of the storm, so regardless of Delta's final landfall intensity, the projected large size of the hurricane is likely to result in a significant storm surge and wind event for portions of the northern Gulf Coast later this week, Brown said.
Well, good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Bruce. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Well, sorry, buddy. I was having some technical difficulties as my computer was working as slow as a snail this morning.
Well, I'm glad you've managed to put a light behind it, as they say, and get it going. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
Take it from here.
Thank you so much for reading the first story. I really appreciate you jumping in there. Well, good morning, Acadiana. Sorry for that little technical default, but here I am reading you the news. I'm Bruce Cohen, and this is Wednesday, October 7th, 2020, and this is Local News Live. So we'll get into some of the more local stories. The storm story is very important, and we should all keep an eye on that, and I hope everybody stays safe. The Louisiana Supreme Court rejects Pope appeal. 3 felony convictions upheld for suspended Lafayette City Marshal by Claire Taylor, staff writer. The Louisiana Supreme Court, in a decision announced Tuesday, declined to hear suspended Lafayette City Marshal Brian Pope's appeal of 3 2018 felony convictions. The Third Circuit Court of Appeal denied Pope's appeal in June, and 2 15th Judicial District Court judges in August disqualified the one-term city marshal running for re-election on November 3rd. A jury in October 2018 convicted Pope on 3 felony counts of malfeasance in office and 1 perjury charge. 15th Judicial District Court Judge David Smith later dismissed the perjury charge. Smith sentenced Pope to a year in the Lafayette Parish Jail for each of the 3 counts, suspending all but 1 year. He also sentenced Pope to 240 hours of community service and ordered him to pay restitution. The 3 felony malfeasance convictions stem from Pope spending public money to hire attorneys for services unrelated to the city marshal's office. In one instance, Pope hired an attorney to try to unseal the divorce records of Mark Garber, who was running against Chad Leger, Pope's friend, for Lafayette Parish Sheriff. Garber won the race. Pope also hired an attorney to represent some of his staff who was summoned into the district attorney's office during an investigation of Pope, and hired another attorney using public funds to appeal a contempt of court charge. He faces more than a dozen additional malfeasance charges that have yet to be tried. He is accused of taking court fees for his personal use when, according to an attorney general's opinion, the money should have been used for the city marshal's office. Okay, moving on, locally stories. We still do fun things. Lafayette Parish leaders, families prepare for trick-or-treating during pandemic. by Megan Wyatt, staff writer. Megan Romer plans to celebrate Halloween with her 10-year-old son by indulging in unusual candy and watching scary movies. Typically, Romer takes Malcolm trick-or-treating in a nearby neighborhood, but said the risks are too great this year. She, her husband, and son have asthma and are at a higher risk for complications of COVID-19, so her family has taken as many precautions as possible since March to keep safe. I'm looking forward to a spooky movie night and hot chocolate and a big bowl of stupid candy on the couch, Romer said with a laugh. We can still do fun things. It's a matter of being a little bit creative and trying to find things that are fun. I think it's worth it. Many Lafayette Parish children will trick-or-treat this year, even though the federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention designated it as a high-risk activity because of the pandemic. Mayors around the parish announced last week that trick-or-treating would take place from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. October 31st. The joint announcement also provided safety guidelines to reduce the spread of the coronavirus. Heather Duhan, who has 5 children between the ages of 5 and 17, plans to celebrate Halloween as usual this year. That means participating in a fundraiser race in the morning and trick-or-treating or gathering with friends and family in the evening. Duhan compares her mindset about Halloween to that of her 5-year-old daughter's fear of heights. Audrey has a stuffed monster that says, "We're not going to let our fears keep us from adventure," Duhan said. That would be our mantra, I guess, Duhan said. It's not something we shouldn't be cautious of, but I think the science is showing that we can't let it cripple us as a community. We can get back to a sense of normal as much as we can and be cautious at the same time. Although outdoor activities are generally safe than indoor ones, the CDC has deemed traditional trick-or-treating, trunk or treating, hayrides, and fall festivals as high-risk activities. Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory and other municipal mayors, Glenn Brasso of Carencro, Ray Bork of Broussard, Jan Scott Richard of Scott, Ken Ritter of Youngsville, and Johnny Thibodeau of Doosan, have asked that families take precautions to reduce the risk of COVID-19 transmission while celebrating Halloween. These precautions include not participating in Halloween festivities if you're feeling ill, only trick-or-treating with members of your household and within your own neighborhood if possible, wearing proper face coverings in public and remembering that Halloween masks are not a substitute for real, avoiding activities in which germs can spread easily, such as bobbing for apples or close-quartered haunted houses, and considering alternatives to trick-or-treating, such as CDC's zombie survival scavenger hunt or drive-through trick-or-treating. In other local news, the Crew de Canaille plans modified for the 2021 parade. New format allows for social distancing, staff report. The Crew de Canaille, Lafayette's first and only walking parade, will feature a modified format designed for safe participation for its 2021 Mardi Gras parade. Registration for all the places we didn't go opened last week. Crew de Canaille said in a prepared statement it has decided to take an adapted approach to the familiar Mardi Gras parade in 2021 because nothing can keep a Canaille down. Fitting with the 2021 name, sub-crews will set up at designated locations and decorate their lawns, porches, and themselves with their sub-crews theme. It's a chance to celebrate 2020 being over and being over 2020, the crew said in its statement. The theme may include the roads not traveled, anything that was missed in 2020, or whatever message the sub-crews wish to communicate to 2020. All parade stops will be mapped for the public to cruise by to see costumes and decorations and to engage in general revelry. The format is similar to driving around to look at Christmas decorations, but instead revelers will be in the Mardi Gras spirit. When we started planning for 2021, said Blaze Peterson, co-founder and president of the crew, it was difficult, yet with the format for 2021, we found a way to still spark that Mardi Gras magic while keeping our members and the public safe. To me, Peterson added, this is the essence of what KDC is all about. finding alternative creative forms of expression that bring our community together. Peterson said one of the best things about this irreverent crew is the closeness between the crowd and crew members, the magical energy created with us as a walking crew in the absence of barricades. Without social distancing meant we would have to forego that closeness, Peterson said, but we are really proud of the innovative idea we've implemented to restore the revelry. Right. Let's read a couple of public service announcements for the morning. The Shared Mobility Device, or SMD Management Committee, established by Ordinance Number JO 071-2020 in July of 2020, is hosting a meeting today, October 7th, at 2 p.m. at the Rosa Parks Transportation Center in downtown Lafayette to discuss geofencing locations, as well as other rules and regulations for the operation of bike share and electric scooters within the city and parish of Lafayette. Those interested in attending are welcome, but please note that due to COVID-19 guidelines, the capacity of the meeting is limited to 40 people. Viewers will be able to access the meeting via Ustream, the same system used for council meetings on LCG's website at lafayette.la.gov. However, viewers using Ustream will not be able to interact with the meeting. If you have any feedback, you can send an email to info@downtownlafayette.org. Requests for mosquito control now available through Lafayette 311 Mosquito Prevention and Safety. Lafayette's Consolidated Government, or LCG, is increasing mosquito abatement efforts in the parish following Hurricane Laura. An increase in mosquito activity is a common consequence or common occurrence following a storm event, and we have another one on the way. Citizens noticing an influx of mosquitoes in their area can now use the Lafayette 311 portal to request service. All submitted requests are routed directly to Mosquito Control Services, the mosquito control contractor for the parish. And getting back into the news, states to take on debt for jobless fund. Money from U.S. Treasury will let unemployment trust avoid bankruptcy, by Sam Carlin, staff writer. Louisiana expected to take on hundreds of millions in debt from the federal government to stave off bankruptcy for its dissipating unemployment fund. And lawmakers acknowledged Tuesday they don't yet have a plan on how to pay the money back. The borrowing by the Louisiana Workforce Commission from the U.S. Treasury comes as a fund that pays unemployment benefits to jobless workers was set to run out of money imminently. Legislators started advancing several resolutions sponsored by Senate President Page Cortez to suspend tax hikes and benefit cuts that would otherwise automatically go into effect because the unemployment trust fund has been depleted so much. That means workers and businesses rolled by the recession won't suffer by seeing smaller checks or higher taxes, at least for now. It also means the state will need to find another way to pay back the debt it will incur from the feds. We can only kick the can for so long before coming up against the wall, said Senate Labor and Industrial Relations Committee Chairman Troy Carter, Democrat from New Orleans. In March, before the pandemic caused historic levels of unemployment, Louisiana's unemployment trust fund was at more than $1 billion. Since then, it has experienced a stunning decline and had only $100,000 as of Tuesday, Louisiana Workforce Commission Secretary Ava DeJoy said in an interview. DeJoy said workers should know the state will never stop paying out benefits, which is why our agency will start borrowing from the federal government Wednesday. According to the Associated Press, more than half of the U.S. states are taking on similar debt from the federal government to keep their unemployment systems afloat. DeJoy said when her agency started filing out paperwork to borrow from the feds through the U.S. Department of Labor, officials estimated needing $200 million a month in federal money to pay benefits. But now officials project taking on about $236 million total, is the number of people receiving benefits is dropping so fast. That's not because they are getting back to work. Instead, workers are hitting their 26-week cap on benefits, meaning they no longer qualify for the funds. Many of those workers can then receive 13 more weeks of federal benefits. What we're paying weekly is declining at a rapid rate, given people are exhausting their 26 weeks of state unemployment benefits, DeJoy said. The Unemployment Trust Fund takes in money through taxes on businesses, payrolls, and pays benefits to laid off workers. The maximum benefit is $247 a week, among the lowest in the U.S., and state law normally requires the benefit to be cut to $221 a week if the fund falls below $750 million. If the resolution passed through the legislature, workers won't see those benefit cuts and businesses won't be charged with new taxes. DeJoy says she will begin borrowing from the federal government to pay out benefits starting Wednesday, today, in order to keep the money flowing to laid off workers. The agency estimates that based on the number of people on unemployment and the number who will become ineligible after exhausting their benefits, the state will have to use $236 million from the federal government to pay benefits. The money won't have to be repaid until September. We'll continue with business as usual, she said, but at the end of each September, a state panel, the Revenue Estimating Conference, is required to project how much money will be in the unemployment fund the following year. If that amount is expected to be less than $750 million, benefits are cut to $221 a week starting January 1st. If the amount is projected to be less than $100 million, which DeJoy said is the case, employees would also be on the hook for an additional 30% unemployment tax, which amounted to $61.6 million last year. Additionally, the state normally applies another tax of 1.4% of the first $15,000 employees pay in wages if the state takes on debt to pay unemployment benefits. And a subtax to repay the interest on federal debt is typically applied. All those taxes and benefit cuts would be suspended until July 30th if legislation by Cortez and Senator Mike Reese, Republican from Leesville, passes. Okay. The next story is football's new normal. High schools adjusting the coronavirus protocols, now facing Hurricane Delta, by Spencer Urquhart. Spencer, I know I'm just decimating your name, but it's Urquhart, and hopefully we'll get that spelling pronunciation correct in the future. But Spencer is a staff writer for The Advocate. Folks across Acadiana have been excited about a safe return to high school football. Fall favorite has always had its challenges, including hurricanes, which this week caused a number of schools to reschedule their Friday night matchups for Wednesday. Coronavirus protocols designed to keep players and fans safe and prevent the spread of the virus have been an unprecedented challenge for schools. Adjusting to a new normal is never easy, especially for players on the sidelines having to practice social distancing and the fans in the stands having to wear face coverings and make sure to stay 6 feet apart from others unless they enter the gates as a group. Lafayette Parish, 4 schools have hosted their first games under the new guidelines, and while Como, St. Thomas More, Turlings Catholic, and Lafayette Christian all found it challenging, the consensus was things went fairly well. We marked our stadium off, numbered seats, and counted what we could sell on both sides, Turlings principal Mike Boyer said. We had no problems taking temperatures and made sure people entering were wearing masks. We placed the students in the chairs in the end zone. We had no problems during the game and live streamed the game using VSN so people who couldn't come in could watch. Although some fans were resistant to wearing masks and social distancing, having all fans in the same boat following protocols is key to sustaining the season, according to Nick Jeffers, Athletics Director for Lafayette Parish Schools. We had one LPSS game this week, Como, and I thought it went well, Jeffers said. thought they adjusted well to the protocols put in place. The goal is to keep everyone happy so it's safe to play. Everyone has responsibility when it comes to social distancing. Everybody doing their part is essential, and it's gone well for the most part. We may have had some individuals who didn't agree, but it goes back to giving the kids the best opportunity to perform each Friday. We just hope fans can come out and support and are in compliance of mask and social distancing. We appreciate their support in following guidelines for safety and protection. Although the mask mandate wasn't popular, St. Thomas More made sure its fans wore masks before entering the stadium, according to Athletic Director Kim Broussard. They're not real happy with masks and social distancing, but it's protocol, and we've got to follow it because it has to be done, Broussard said. Once we informed them of the mask mandate, they put it on. Some had to go back to their cars and get it, but they didn't argue. St. Thomas More also made sure it's banned and students were not in the stands and were instead socially distanced on the sidelines wearing masks. I was very pleased with the cooperation we got from the fans and students, Broussard said. We asked a lot of them, and I was overly pleased with everyone's cooperation and how they handled it. The mask mandate wasn't easy to enforce at Lafayette Christian once fans entered the game, School President Jay Miller said. He said he felt like they followed the guidelines set in place by the Louisiana High School Athletic Association, or LHSAA, despite a report from the Daily Advertiser stating that protocols were ignored. I felt that we made the best of it, Miller said. I thought we implemented all the CDC guidelines, but there were reports that stated otherwise. We did temperature checks at the gate and had masks to give out if someone didn't have one. We didn't have mask police once they entered, but if that's what the LHSAA will require, then that's what we'll do. Miller admitted, however, the fans need to do better as far as social distancing and mask wearing, as there were some fans who proceeded to take their masks off once they sat down. We just have to continue to do better to enforce those guidelines and do all we can to ensure that their season will continue, Miller said. We have to reassess this week and train our people to do better to help keep the season going. We're stressed to fans to social distance and wear the mask. I feel like fans could have spread out more, but that's the habit. I think it's a matter of training fans, and they have to be a better understanding, and we need to do a better job of doing that. LHSAA officials said they received information regarding schools not following guidelines and are in contact with the school administrators. While Turlings had all hands on deck to ensure that protocols were followed, Boyer admitted that it was tough to limit capacity because it meant that some family members and longtime supporters couldn't come support the team in person. A lot of the fans were not happy, as they would have liked more tickets, as there were some family members and longstanding supporters that couldn't get in, Boyer said. The fans that could get in had fat head cutouts of the players and were cheering like normal once the game started. We had a plan that seemed to work, and hopefully we'll see an increase in seating in 2 weeks when we return home. Jefferson is making sure that Lafayette Parish Public Schools gets the word out via social media and online. While we lack in personnel and make it up for in guidance, Jefferson said, we're very clear on what to expect on social media and push information out as far as ticket sales and expectations. All ticket sales are pre-sale, and we made sure the guidelines are pushed and were released early last week on Facebook, and schools made similar posts on their Facebook and Twitter. All 4 Lafayette Parish schools made sure the tickets were pre-sold, and the hope is that there will be an eventual increase in capacity to allow more supporters to come in. It can only get better, Boyer said. We appropriately use the space available and hopefully can bring in bigger crowds. This is tough for everyone, as we're all taking a lick since the price of equipment is going down. We didn't raise ticket prices any, and all of the schools in District 5 through 4A agreed to not go over $8 for the visiting team. Giving priority to parents and family members is something most schools are emphasizing because capacity is still limited to 25%. Each school was tasked with creating structure for purchase, Jeffers says. Some do senior parents first, and we try to be mindful of taking care of families and giving them the first opportunity to purchase tickets. It depends on demand as far as parents versus the public getting in. We treated the visiting team like a playoff situation based on 25% of visitor capacity. Whatever isn't sold can be made available to the home team. Broussard said he was impressed overall with how the fans handled protocol at St. Thomas More. We had a good plan in place and felt like we had a great success, he said. Everybody was excited to finally get on the field. We don't want to get shut down or not have fans in the stands. We had lots of obstacles and challenges leading up, and we had a good plan going in and feel like we executed that plan. Okay, it's 9:30. It's a half-hour break, and so we'll do our day in history, the Zodiac, and the funerals in the Acadiana area today, along with some other special funeral or people who have departed this earthly coil in the last couple of days. I have some additional news to talk about. But first, let's go to a couple of PSAs. The Festival Awards Student Creative Writing Contest. Students in grades 3 through 12 from across the Acadiana area are invited to participate in a writing contest sponsored by the National Writing Project of Acadiana and the Festival Awards. Students can enter their original writing pieces in 3 writing categories, including poetry, fiction, and creative nonfiction. Writing should be submitted through a supervising teacher or a school facilitator online by sending them to H.M. Creamer, that's HMKREAMER at Louisiana.edu. Parent guardian permission must be granted by filling out the student writing contest entry form. The supervising teacher or school facilitator should submit these forms electronically by the submission deadline as well. Awards will be given for first, second, and third place winners. Contest winners will also receive an anthology publication of winning entries. Feel free to contact Dr. H. Michelle Creamer, Kreamer, Writing Competition Coordinator for Festival Awards Student Creative Writing Contest at H.M. Creamer at Louisiana.edu if you have questions or concerns. And let me make sure that deadline is the final deadline for online submissions by email is Friday, October 23rd, 2020 by 11:55 p.m. Okay, getting back into the news. This is our day in history. Today is Wednesday, October 7th, the 281st day of 2020. There are potentially 85 shopping days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on October 7th, 1996, Fox News Channel made its debut. On this date in 1954, Marian Anderson became the first black singer hired by the Metropolitan Opera Company in New York. 1960, Democratic presidential candidate John F. Kennedy and Republican opponent Richard Nixon held their second televised debate, this one in Washington, D.C. 1982, the Andrew Lloyd Webber Tim Rice musical Cats opened on Broadway. The show closed September 10th, 2000, after a record 7,485 performances. Also on this date in 1991, University of Oklahoma law professor Anita Hill publicly accused Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas of making sexually inappropriate comments when she worked for him. Thomas denied Hill's allegations. 1992, trade representatives of the United States, Canada, and Mexico initiated the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, during a ceremony in San Antonio, Texas, in the presence of President George H.W. Bush, Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, and Mexican President Carlos Salinas de Gortari. In 1998, Matthew Shepard, a gay college student, was beaten and left tied to a wooden fence post outside of Laramie, Wyoming. He died 5 days later. Russell Henderson and Aaron McKinney are serving life sentences for Shepard's murder. In this date in 2001, the year the war in Afghanistan started, as the United States and Britain launched air attacks against military targets and Osama bin Laden's training camps in the wake of the September 11th attacks. In 2003, California voters recalled Governor Gray Davis and elected Arnold Schwarzenegger their new governor. In 2004, President George W. Bush and Vice President Dick Cheney conceded that Saddam Hussein had no weapons of mass destruction as they tried to shift the Iraqi war debate to a new issue, arguing that Saddam was abusing a UN oil for food program. 10 years ago on this day, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie canceled construction of a decades in the making a train tunnel between New Jersey and Manhattan, citing cost overruns that had ballooned the price tag from $5 billion to $10 billion or more. 5 years ago, President Barack Obama apologized to Doctors Without Borders for the American air attack that killed 42 people at its hospital in Afghanistan, and said the U.S. would examine military procedures to look for better ways to prevent such incidents. 1 year ago, House Democrats issued subpoenas to Defense Secretary Mark Esper and Acting White House Budget Director Russell Vought as part of the impeachment inquiry of President Donald Trump. And today's birthday. Retired South African Archbishop and Nobel Prize laureate Desmond Tutu is 89. Arthur Thomas Keneally is 85. Comedian Joy Behar is 78. Former National Security Council aide Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, retired, is 77. Actor Joe Larson is 73. Singer John Mellencamp is 69. Russian President Vladimir Putin is 68. Rock musician Tico Torres from Bon Jovi is 67. Actor Christopher Norris is 65. Cellist Yo-Yo Ma is 65. And actor Dylan Baker is 62. And actor Judy Landers is also 62. And looking at the zodiac for today. If you're a Libra, hop on the information highway and research something that interests you. You can find an innovative idea that will help you get ahead. Scorpio, strive to achieve your goals, stay within budget, even if someone tries to persuade you to go overboard. An innovative approach will lead to monetary gains. Sagittarius, too many options will confuse you. Take a moment to consider your options and consider the long-term effects. Don't leave anything to chance or count on someone to help. Capricorn, someone will make a fuss or question your motives. Use charm and other incentives if you want to make changes without interference. Contracts can be negotiated and signed. Aquarius, take pride in what you do. Fix up your surroundings to accommodate something you want to pursue. Physical action will bring good results, and talks will lead to empty promises. Pisces, mull over what you've accomplished and proceed to make positive changes to how you live, work, and handle your money. Don't let an emotional decision lead to a mistake. Aries, don't let frustration get you down. Take care of your responsibilities and move on to something physically or mentally stimulating. Refuse to let an outsider meddle in your business. Taurus, check everyone's motives before you get involved in a joint venture. You'll face less opposition if you do your own thing. Make changes that will change the way you socialize or interact with others. Romance is featured. Gemini, don't let your emotions interfere with what you have to get done. Positive attitude will help you summon the support needed to finish what you start. Take better care of your health. Cancer, you may not receive all the information you require to make the right decision. Ask questions, bide your time, and don't be afraid to make a last-minute change if you have doubts. Leo, say less, and do more. Your actions will make a difference. A positive, passionate approach to work will lead to progress. Don't let changes someone makes stand in your way. And finally, Virgo, my birth sign, let technology help you get things done. Set up meetings and voice your opinion. How you conduct business will impress someone who can help you get ahead. As always, the horoscope is an entertainment feature, not based on scientific fact. And the funerals in the area today, we all heard about former Governor Foster passing away a few days ago. So the funeral is today at the Franklin Cemetery for Murphy Foster Jr. at 12:30 p.m. I just want to read another bit of information about former Governor Foster. Former Governor Mike Foster, who died Sunday at age 90 of natural causes, will be buried in Franklin in his hometown on Wednesday. Private services will be held at his plantation-style home, Oakland Manor, on Biotesh at 11 a.m., followed by a public graveside service at 12:30 p.m. at Franklin Cemetery, complete with a military send-off. Foster was a pilot with the rank of captain during the Korean War in the 1950s. Foster was a two-term Republican governor from 1996 to 2004. Under his watch, the state created the Louisiana Community and Technical College System, or TOPS, scholarship program for students to attend Louisiana universities tuition-free. Foster never liked pomp and circumstance, and in keeping with that, his family decided to forego a memorial service for him at the state capitol, as was done for former Governor Kathleen Blanco, the state's first female governor after she died in August of 2019. A veteran, a businessman, and sportsman, Governor Mike Foster was a true Louisiana who served his country, his state, and his community with honor throughout his life. Governor John Bell Edwards said in a statement, and added that he ordered that flags in the state should be flown at half-staff in honor of his memory. Pallbearers will be his grandsons. Honorary pallbearers will be Randy Battaglio, Charlie Bilodeau, Brittany Boudreau, Leslie Broad, Dr. Tom Kramer, Donnie Steele, and Dr. C.T. Sterling. In lieu of flowers, the family is asking for contributions to St. Mary's Episcopal Church in Franklin of the Coastal Conservation Association of Louisiana. And also, for those of you rock and rollers out there who hadn't heard, or definitely have heard that very incredibly famed and unbelievably guitarist of the rock and roll world, Eddie Van Halen, passed away yesterday due to a long bout with cancer at the age of, I believe he was 65. So I'm going to play a little bit of his music. This is from the very first album, and this shows you just a little bit of what he could do with this guitar. Rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen. Moving on, we have an entertainment story and food related. A 2020 miracle, Christmas-themed pop-up cocktail bar returns to Pamplona. In a year that seems to have dragged on for far too long, who couldn't use a Christmas miracle? That's what you'll soon find in Pamplona Tapas Bar with the return of Miracle, a holiday-themed pop-up bar with over-the-top decorations. The Miracle concept was born in 2014 when Greg Boehm halted construction of a New York cocktail bar at the recommendation of his mother to transform the unfinished space into a winter wonderland that served holiday-themed drinks in a festive space. The concept was an instant success, and Boehm's friends and fellow bar owners have reached out to find out how they could add holiday music to their own businesses. Now, the Miracle concept can be found in a dozen of bars across the country. This is the second year Pamplona at 631 Jefferson Street downtown Lafayette will host the event. The holiday magic kicks off at the beginning of November and continues through the end of December. Expect unique cocktails and holiday decor that's both traditional and quirky, from twinkling lights, vintage garland, and reindeer figurines to our twerking Santa and humorous holiday cards. We are excited to be able to continue Miracle this year, especially in such an unprecedented time, Boehm said in a statement. It's undoubtedly been a tough year for everyone, and our industry has been hit hard, so some holiday cheer is in order. We feel incredibly lucky to welcome back so many of our dedicated partner locations and even welcome new ones across the world, with the safety and enjoyment of our guests as our top priority. Cocktails come in playful mugs and glassware that are available for purchase during the pop-up event. Miracle is also donating 10% of proceeds from the sale of the Santa Pants, Christmas Carol Barrel, and Santa Heads glassware to the James Beard Foundation's Open for Good campaign to aid the relief efforts of independent restaurants. Coronavirus restrictions and guidelines will be in place, and outdoor seating and to-go cocktails also will be available as permitted. Now, here's a sneak peek at the cocktail lineup for this year's Miracle at Pamplona Tapas Bar. The Christmaspolitan is vodka, elderflower, dry vermouth, spiced cranberry sauce, rosemary, lime, and absinthe mist. The Jolly Koala is a gin, vermouth, pine, and sage cordial. Snowball Old Fashioned includes rye, gingerbread, bitters, wormwood bitters, and orange essence. On Dasher is bourbon, mezcal, sweet vermouth, spiced hibiscus, burlesque bitters, and lemon. Bad Santa, served hot, is mulled wet wine, tawny port, orange liquor, and Christmas spices. Christmas Carol Barrel is tequila, coffee liqueur, dry and spiced chocolate. Fruitcake Flip is a brandy Jamaican overproof rum drink. Amaretto, fruitcake, cherry, bitters, and whole eggs are also part of the drink. Santa Rex, tequila, herbal mint liquor, mezcal, serrano coconut, and acid-adjusted pineapple. Jingle Bells Nog is cognac, cream sherry, almond milk, cream egg, vanilla, and nutmeg. Nice Shot is rum, peppermint, tea, chocolate. Naughty Shot is bourbon and cinnamon, and the Mistletoe Shot is gingerbread spiced rye. To learn more about the Miracle at Pamplona Tapas Bar, you can visit miraclepop-up.com or pamplonatapas.com. And that's the food and entertainment portion of the broadcast this morning. Now we're getting back into the news. The election 2020's 16th Judicial District Attorney. Incumbent DA draws retired judge as challenger. Duhay Landry face off amid fraught history by Katie Gagliano, staff writer. Sitting District Attorney Bo Duhay and retired District Judge Lori Landry are going head to head in the November 3rd election. Okay. And the first competitive race for the 16th Judicial District Attorney's Office in 20 years. Duhay was unopposed when he stepped into the office in 2015 after the tenure of District Attorney Phil Haney. Haney's initial election in 2000 was the last competitive race for for the district attorney's office. He ran again in 2002 and 2008 without challenge, according to records from the Louisiana Secretary of State's office. The 16th Judicial District covers Iberia, St. Martin, and St. Mary parishes. The relationship between the two candidates extends beyond parallel paths on the campaign trail. Duhay and Landry previously worked together at the district attorney's office in the 1990s and early 2000s, and in adjacent roles as prosecutor and district judge, respectively, for the past 18 years. The hearings ended with a joint statement. The relationship between the two entered a new chapter last year when Duhay's office brought more than 300 recusal motions against Landry in criminal cases, accusing her of bias against his office and exhibiting bullying behavior toward people in her courtroom. The recusal motions resulted in 4 days of hearings before an appointed judge in December. The hearings ended with a joint statement from Duhay and Landry, who was not directly involved in proceedings, agreeing to put the issue to bed for the sake of the community trust. Duhay said he doesn't think his and Landry's personal injury needs to overly influence or eclipse the district attorney's race. At the end of the day, we're our own separate individuals and candidates with our own ideas of where to go, where we come from, as far as the handling of a district attorney's office, Duhay said. Landry built out the department's sex offenses track in the 1990s, educating law enforcement, judges, and educators about reporting, handling victims, and collecting evidence, and defining the office's prosecution protocol, she said. Experience was invaluable and gave her the insight needed to build efficient and structured working departments, she said. The incumbent said he believes he's fair, empathetic, level-headed, and accessible. He has a strong record of working collaboratively with criminal justice stakeholders, the public, and other officials in the tri-parish area that speaks well of his ability to continue serving as a top prosecutor. Duhay also challenged some of Landry's assessments of his office, noting he believes her presentation of case backlogs and a lack of streamlined policies mentioned in interviews and public forums is an oversimplification for the voters. Although policies are needed, each case can't be painted with the same brush because they involve unique circumstances and defendant backgrounds, he said. Turning to sports, LSU game expected to relocate. Schedule change caused by Delta's probable impact on area by Brooks Cobena, staff writer. LSU's football game against Missouri is expected to be relocated from Tiger Stadium to Farragut Field in Columbia, Missouri on Saturday because of Hurricane Delta, multiple sources told the Advocate on Tuesday. A long day of discussions between the schools explored multiple options at different neutral site locations, and ultimately moving the game to Missouri became the most realistic option. LSU has never played Missouri in its home state, and it took one of the most turbulent years in recent memory to make it happen. The Category 4 Delta is a 6th gulf storm to take aim at Louisiana, and weather projections forecast the storm is expected to make landfall in southeast Louisiana on Friday night or Saturday morning. Southeastern Conference spokesman Herb Vincent said in a statement Tuesday evening a final decision on the status of the game is expected to be announced on Wednesday morning. As we continue to monitor the path of Hurricane Delta, all preparations are being made to accommodate playing the game as scheduled in Baton Rouge or to move the game if necessary, Vincent said. Throughout Tuesday, multiple sources said the schools explored moving the game to Houston's NRG Stadium and Arlington's AT&T Stadium. There were difficulties in both options because both NFL franchises, the Houston Texans and Dallas Cowboys, have scheduled home games on Sunday, and questions arose if the stadiums can be properly sanitized overnight to follow COVID-19 protocols. Shreveport's Independence Stadium was also an option, multiple sources said, but by the end of the day, Farragut Field emerged as a choice for relocation. An official statement at the LSU Athletic Department said Tuesday, they're closely monitoring Hurricane Delta and are in close communication with Southeastern Conference and Missouri officials on contingency plans should they become necessary. A shift in home field advantage isn't as large a factor this year. Every SEC team has decreased their stadium capacity significantly to fall in line with local health and safety guidelines. Missouri's far arts field's capacity is estimated to be in the range of 20 to 25%. In the year before, Hurricane Matthew postponed LSU's games against Florida and Greensville on October 8, 2016. The game was played on November 19th in Tiger Stadium, and Florida won 16-10. LSU then played back-to-back games in Gainesville in 2018 and 2019, and the team split wins in each year. In 2015, extensive flooding from Hurricane Joaquin in Columbia, South Carolina, forced the LSU South Carolina game to relocate to Baton Rouge. LSU, which won 45-24, raised South Carolina's state flag inside Tiger Stadium, and the place cards in the press box read, "Welcome to Williams-Brice Stadium, Tiger Stadium Edition." In local sports, Cajuns are Robertson Back and Groove, transfer advocates for mental health care by Kevin Foote, staff writer. And before I go on, it's 9:56, which means our audio portion on our TV stations have ended for the morning, but you can continue to listen to the broadcast. And I just have this story to read, this last sports story to read, which will only take a few minutes. But if you wish to continue to listen, you can do so at two places. You can go online to our online streaming radio service called Cypress Street Radio. That's CYPRESS Street Radio. Click on the play button. Or you can go to YouTube, our YouTube channel, AOC Community Media, to listen in. Cajuns Robertson Back and Groove, transfer advocates for mental health care by Kevin Foote, staff writer. Graduate transfer Zach Robertson knew he wouldn't go from where he was to starting when he joined the Raging Cajuns in June. The former Arizona State left tackle didn't play football at all in 2019. When the Sun Devils arrived for August camp, he had left the team for personal reasons, according to reports. I wouldn't say scratch, but I would definitely say it was almost like cutting it in half, Robinson said of where his game was. I knew at the time that I had been out. There were a lot of things I had to wrap my head around with the speed of the game, things like that. His move from Arizona to Cajun country was a way of starting over in Robertson in many ways. In terms of sitting out last season, I went through a lot of issues, Robertson said. I went through depression, anxiety. The way I was raised, it wasn't an emphasis to make sure these things were okay, your mental health is okay. It got to the point where it overwhelmed me and I made wrong decisions. With those choices came consequences. I had to sit out, he said. I basically didn't know if I was ever going to play football again. Those two things scared the hell out of me. Suddenly, football was no longer the number one priority in his life. He had to get his mind right and get his life back on track before football would be possible again. I made sure I took pride in that, and I got the help that I needed, Robertson said. That focus continued upon arriving in Lafayette. Even here at UL, I make sure I talk to somebody. I talk to counselors, somebody that's going to keep me grounded, Robertson said. Excuse me. I think I'm in the best position, best shape in terms of mental health. Robertson appreciated Arizona State's staff promising not to bad talk my name to anybody and offering a recommendation elsewhere. UL quickly became Robertson's choice because of the existing relationships with UL head coach Billy Napier and offensive coordinator Rob Sale after their year on the Sun Devils coaching staff before coming to UL. It was huge, Robertson said. I had a few other options that I was considering that were kind of blown off the table because of the fact that I knew Sale and I knew Coach Napier and I knew the system a little bit more. And frankly, there wasn't time to start from scratch. The first opportunity we had to work with him was in July because everything was voluntary in June, Napier said. He's a rookie player, truth be known. I knew he started quite a few games in the past, but I think a year off in a new system, a lot of these things are adding up there. But we're pleased with Zach. We're glad we got him, and certainly he's got an opportunity to grow into a really, really special player as time goes here. It didn't take long for Robinson to realize he had some catching up to do. When you've been playing for years and years, you don't think about those things, but I definitely had to shock myself into football, he said. Once I felt like it was to play at a high level again, it felt really good. I do think there's a lot of guys in general in our position. How old we are with how much burden we have to shoulder every day, Robert said. I think we definitely have to talk to people. And mental health is so important. Without any type of stability, it's going to be hard to think about football, school, or women, or all those things that come with that at college age. I'm definitely an advocate on our team about talking to somebody. I would definitely say that it took me about a quarter or two to say, man, I'm here, he said. A year ago when I was sitting at home not doing much, I was like, man, it seems so far away. First game, it was way too long overdue. I had to get those jitters on. I had to get that play speed back. I think he's got a lot of height and length. He's a good athlete. He does his job physically. He's capable of playing with power. He's got enough athletic ability to win on the backside and on the front side of a stretch play, and he's done a good job in protection, Napier said, both on and off the field. And that wraps up our news broadcast for this morning. Hope that you enjoyed tuning in. We provide the service every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on our TV stations. The audio is broadcast, and on our Cypress Street Radio streaming service, and on YouTube at AOC Community Media. We appreciate you listening in. We do provide the service for free to our visually impaired audience and to our community of listeners who don't have access to the newspaper or the news cycle. If you want to become a newspaper reading volunteer, you can do so by going to our website, aocinc.org, go to the volunteer page, fill out the form, and become a member of our reading team family, and we appreciate it. As always, this is Bruce Cohen. Will always be Bruce Cohen, and I appreciate you tuning in and listening this morning. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and be smart. Be smart about the COVID-19. And also, if you need to feel that you need to evacuate or hunker down, either choice you make, please take caution, be safe. Let's keep everybody safe during this upcoming storm. Let's take care of each other and be kind to each other. Have a great day.